The grand ballroom shimmered under the crystal chandeliers, golden light reflecting across polished floors and expensive dresses. People moved in clusters, laughing, whispering, exchanging polite smiles, yet one figure lingered on the edge, unnoticed. Leo, the Mafia boss, stood at the far end, his sharp eyes scanning the room with a quiet authority. He was a man whose presence commanded respect and fear, yet tonight his attention was on something far softer, far more fragile. His son, Alex, sat near the orchestra, fidgeting with the edge of his sleeve, eyes darting nervously at the sea of elegantly dressed guests. The boy was autistic, brilliant in ways most couldn't perceive, and the world around him moved too fast, too loud, too chaotic. Clara, a young woman with chestnut hair cascading over her shoulders, moved through the crowd with subtle grace. She noticed how people avoided Alex, how they whispered and looked away, treating him as if he were invisible, or worse, a problem. Her heart tightened with each glance. She had seen exclusion before, the way society turned its back on those who were different. But something about Alex struck her, a light behind his cautious eyes that drew her closer, despite the murmurs and sideways looks. She hesitated at the edge of the group, her pulse quickening. This was not her world, these wealthy, polished people, yet she felt compelled to step forward. Alex looked up briefly, catching her gaze. There was a flicker of curiosity, a hesitant smile that seemed almost imperceptible, yet it shone through the uncertainty surrounding him. Clara knelt slightly to meet his level, her voice gentle and warm. "Would you like to dance?" she asked softly, offering her hand without hesitation. The room went quiet for a moment, the world narrowing to the space between them. Guests paused mid-laugh, some raising eyebrows, others pretending not to notice. Yet Leo's eyes darkened, not with anger, but with careful observation. He had never allowed anyone to approach Alex like this, never anyone who hadn't been instructed. Yet Clara moved with a courage and ease that unsettled even him. Alex's small hand trembled in hers as she led him to the center of the room. The musicians shifted slightly, noticing the unusual request, and a soft waltz began. Clara guided him gently, matching her movements to his hesitation, her voice a soft encouragement. "You can do this," she whispered, and for the first time that evening, Alex relaxed, the tension leaving his shoulders. The crowd watched in silence, some with curiosity, some with discomfort, but none could take their eyes away. Clara moved with a delicate elegance, her patience and warmth creating a bubble of calm around Alex. It was a moment that defied the rigid hierarchy of the ballroom, a brief rebellion against social expectations, and a spark of something far more human than wealth or power. Leo stepped closer, his expression unreadable, observing his son with a mixture of protectiveness and astonishment. No one had ever treated Alex with such understanding, such genuine respect. The other guests, who had ignored and whispered, now watched with a mixture of surprise and shame, realizing the depth of Clara's kindness. Each step Alex took, guided by her, was a triumph over fear and exclusion. He laughed softly, a sound that seemed to brighten the dim corners of the room, and Clara smiled, letting the music carry them forward. In that dance, they created a space untouched by judgment, a fleeting sanctuary in the midst of opulence and scrutiny. The music flowed around them, a soft and measured rhythm that seemed almost designed for this moment. Clara kept her movements gentle, attuned to Alex's hesitations, guiding him with quiet confidence. Every step he took was a small victory, a defiance of the stares and whispers that had made him retreat into himself. She noticed the way his eyes sparkled when he realized he could follow her lead, the way his lips curved in a tentative smile. The ballroom, once a place of judgment and exclusion, transformed into a space of warmth and connection, and even the chandeliers seemed to shine a little brighter above them. Leo remained close, a silent guardian watching the scene unfold. He had spent years ensuring Alex's safety, controlling every aspect of his world. Yet tonight he realized that protection alone was not enough. Clara's kindness was something different, something he could not manufacture or command. The way she moved, the way she spoke, the patience in her touch. It was all so natural, so unforced, that it unsettled him. He had built walls around his son, around himself, around everything that mattered, and yet Clara stepped into the heart of it all, unafraid and unassuming. The other guests shifted uneasily, some murmuring about impropriety, others daring to admire the sight in spite of themselves. For the first time, the invisible barriers that separated Alex from the world began to erode, even if only slightly. Clara whispered soft encouragements, words that seemed to flow directly into Alex's heart. "It's okay, just follow me. You're doing perfectly." He nodded, letting go of some of his fear, trusting her enough to mirror her movements step by step. Each rotation, each sway, each careful footfall was a testament to bravery, not measured in wealth or power but in the courage to participate in a world that often rejected him. Leo's chest tightened as he observed them. He had underestimated the simple power of human kindness, the ability of one person to break through the walls that even money and influence could not. He had been a man of control, a master of manipulation, yet Clara's influence over Alex was effortless. It was a kind of magic, he realized, a magic rooted in empathy, understanding, and patience. And as he watched his son laugh softly, the sound bright and fragile like a bird's song, he felt an unfamiliar mix of gratitude and fear. Gratitude for Clara's heart, fear for the way her presence might disrupt the rigid order he had maintained for so long. The dance continued, and Alex began to move with more confidence. Clara's guidance was firm but gentle, allowing him to take ownership of his movements. The room seemed to hold its breath, the whispers fading into the background as the father and the son, and now the woman who had bridged their world, became the center of attention. No one could ignore them, not the noble guests who had dismissed him, not the staff who had been conditioned to keep their distance. Clara had created a moment that demanded recognition, a moment that exposed the shallow hearts of those who had ignored Alex and celebrated the courage of one who saw him as he truly was. As the final notes of the waltz drifted into silence, Alex's laughter lingered, warm and unrestrained, filling the spaces where loneliness had once lived. Clara held his hands a moment longer, smiling with a quiet pride, and he returned the gesture with a shy but genuine grin. Leo stepped forward, the first words he had spoken in minutes escaping him in a low murmur. "Thank you," he said, simple yet heavy with meaning. Clara's eyes met his, understanding passing between them without the need for further explanation. It was a bond forged in trust and care, one that defied words and formalities, one that touched something deep within both father and son. The crowd remained still, many unsure how to react, but slowly some began to clap, hesitant at first, then with increasing warmth. It was not just applause for a dance, but for courage, for humanity, for the quiet defiance of isolation. Clara released Alex's hands, allowing him to step back, but she remained close, her presence a steady reassurance. He looked at her, his eyes wide, filled with a mixture of wonder and joy, and for the first time he felt seen. Not as the son of a powerful man, not as someone different, but as himself. Leo's gaze lingered on her, measuring, evaluating, yet not with suspicion. He felt a tension within him, a curious and unsettling mixture of gratitude and admiration, of respect and wariness. Clara had entered a world where few dared to tread, a world dominated by power, control, and danger, and she had done it with nothing but her heart and her courage. He realized, perhaps too late to retreat, that she had changed something fundamental, not only in Alex but in himself. There was no denying the effect of her actions, no dismissing the warmth and bravery she had brought into a place that had long been cold and rigid. The night continued, yet for Leo, the ballroom had become a blur. All that mattered was the connection he had witnessed, the light that Clara had brought to his son's life, and the slow, insistent realization that her presence could not be ignored. Alex remained close, lingering near Clara, comforted by her touch, emboldened by her guidance. The guests, many of whom had ignored him, now seemed hesitant, even ashamed, as if suddenly aware of the cruelty in their indifference. In those moments, a new hierarchy emerged, not one dictated by power or wealth, but by compassion, courage, and the quiet strength of someone willing to stand with the unseen and overlooked. Clara knelt once more, meeting Alex at eye level. "You did so well," she said softly, her words carrying both pride and encouragement. He nodded, his small hand brushing hers briefly, a gesture filled with trust and newfound confidence. Leo stepped forward, placing a hand gently on his son's shoulder, and for the first time in what felt like years, a subtle smile curved his lips. The walls around his heart, the ones he had built to control and protect, began to shift ever so slightly. Clara had done something no one else could. She had bridged the chasm between fear and connection, between isolation and acceptance. The orchestra prepared for the next piece, but Clara and Alex lingered, the memory of the dance etched in their hearts. Leo watched, understanding that this night had changed everything. The world around them, full of wealth, power, and expectation, would never fully grasp the impact of such a simple act of courage and kindness. Yet within this brief window, something profound had occurred. A connection, fragile yet undeniable, had been forged, and the echoes of that moment would resonate far beyond the ballroom walls, shaping the relationships, the hearts, and the lives of those involved. The next morning, the mansion felt quieter than usual, as if the walls themselves were still processing the events of the previous night. Clara moved through the grand halls with a soft purpose, her footsteps barely audible against the marble floors. She could still feel the warmth of Alex's small hand in hers, the delicate trust he had offered her, and it filled her chest with an unusual mixture of pride and apprehension. The staff bustled around, preparing for the day's errands, yet even their movements seemed subdued, as though aware that something delicate had shifted in the atmosphere. Clara paused by the large windows overlooking the gardens, where the morning sun kissed the dew-laden grass, and she allowed herself a small, quiet smile, savoring the memory of Alex's laughter. Leo appeared in the hallway shortly after, his presence commanding yet tempered by the shadow of yesterday's events. He watched Clara from a distance, noting the gentle way she moved, the quiet confidence she exuded despite the opulence and danger surrounding them. There was a respect there, unspoken but unmistakable, and it unsettled him. He had never seen someone navigate his world so naturally, someone capable of disarming his son's fear and softening the rigid expectations of those around him. For all his power, his experience, and his control, he felt an unfamiliar uncertainty in her presence, a sense that she could not be contained or predicted. Alex wandered into the hall, small feet padding softly against the polished floor. His eyes brightened when he saw Clara, and he rushed toward her with a hesitant yet determined step. Clara knelt to meet him, offering a reassuring smile. "Good morning, Alex," she said warmly. His smile was tentative at first, then grew more confident as he handed her a small drawing he had made, lines and colors intertwined in a chaotic but heartfelt expression of his morning. Clara examined it carefully, praising him for his effort and creativity. The joy in his face was immediate, unfiltered, and pure, and it reminded her why the dance last night had mattered so much. She had given him not just attention, but acceptance, and the impact of that gift was already visible. Leo lingered silently in the doorway, observing the small interaction with a mixture of curiosity and caution. His son's happiness was a rare thing, often fleeting and fragile, and seeing it flourish even momentarily was both relieving and unnerving. Clara had done something that no one else had been able to accomplish, and he felt a tension inside him, the need to both protect and understand. There was a part of him that wanted to question her motives, to assert control, to ensure that his world remained unshaken. Yet another part recognized the truth in her actions, The authenticity, the patience, the genuine care she had shown. It was a delicate balance, and he wasn't certain whether he could maintain it. Breakfast passed in relative quiet, the usual clatter of silverware softened by thoughtful glances and subtle awareness. Alex sat close to Clara, drawing quietly while she sipped her tea, her attention divided between him and the bustling staff around them. The boy's comfort in her presence was unmistakable, and Leo could not deny the peace that radiated from the small, family-like tableau forming before him. Yet even as he observed, he felt the weight of his world pressing down, the obligations, the enemies, the intricate dance of loyalty and deception that defined his life. Clara had stepped into the heart of all that, and he had no choice but to acknowledge her influence. Later that day, the garden called to them. Clara led Alex outside, the morning sun bathing the flowers and trees in a golden glow. The boy's eyes widened with delight as he explored, his movements freer than they had been in the confines of the mansion. Clara followed gently, allowing him the independence he craved while remaining a steady anchor nearby. Leo watched from a distance, hidden behind the marble pillars that lined the veranda. There was a fascination in the way she navigated Alex's world, a blend of empathy and intuition that no one in his circle had possessed. He found himself questioning what this meant for the future, both for his son and for himself. The staff continued their routines around the gardens, but Clara and Alex seemed cocooned in their own world. She encouraged him to touch the flowers, to feel the rough bark of the trees, to breathe deeply the scent of morning dew. Each gentle instruction, each word of reassurance, seemed to unlock a new layer of confidence within him. Leo's chest tightened as he watched. The transformation was subtle yet undeniable. Alex's fear was giving way to curiosity, his hesitation replaced with tentative joy. And Clara was the catalyst. He felt a pang of something unexpected, gratitude mixed with apprehension. Afternoon arrived with a warm breeze, and Clara suggested they practice a few small dances in the private courtyard, away from the guests and the staff. Alex's face lit up with anticipation, remembering the exhilaration of the previous night. Clara guided him carefully, one step at a time, reinforcing the rhythm and pace that he could follow comfortably. The courtyard, framed by flowering hedges and stone statues, became a sanctuary for learning, for courage, for connection. Each step Alex took under Clara's guidance was a triumph, and Leo watched with a combination of pride and uncertainty, realizing that influence of the heart was more powerful than any authority he could wield. The late afternoon sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of orange and rose. Clara and Alex paused, catching their breath, the warmth of accomplishment glowing in both their faces. Leo approached cautiously, his presence acknowledged but not intrusive. He knelt beside his son, placing a firm yet gentle hand on his shoulder. "I see how happy you are," he murmured. Alex beamed, his eyes shining, his small body relaxed in the rare comfort of being understood. Clara glanced at Leo, her expression respectful yet unguarded, acknowledging his role while maintaining the gentle bond she had built with Alex. Evening settled over the mansion, and Clara helped Alex prepare for dinner, guiding him with patience and encouragement. The lessons of the day, the dance, the garden, the trust she had nurtured, had strengthened his confidence. Leo remained near, observing, understanding that the change in his son was real, lasting, and largely due to Clara's quiet persistence. There was a tension in him, a complex mix of recognition, awe, and protectiveness. He realized that this woman had not only reached his son in ways he could not, but she had also begun to reach him. The night concluded with Alex asleep in his room, a small smile lingering on his lips. Clara stepped into the hallway, her own heart lighter from the successes of the day. Leo met her gaze briefly, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. No words were spoken, yet both understood that boundaries had shifted, and that the journey they had begun, through trust, courage, and empathy, was only just starting. In the quiet of the mansion, A new chapter of connection and discovery was unfolding, and both father and son were no longer alone in facing the challenges of the world outside. Abrahu morning arrived slowly, the mansion bathed in pale gold as sunlight filtered through tall windows. Clara moved quietly through the halls, careful not to disturb the rhythm of the household, yet she carried with her a subtle sense of purpose. Yesterday had shifted something fragile but profound between her, Alex, and Leo. The boy's laughter still lingered in her mind, a reminder that small acts of courage could illuminate even the coldest corners. She paused briefly in the hallway, observing the grandeur that had once intimidated her. Now it felt like a stage for moments of connection, for lessons in trust, patience, and understanding. Alex appeared shortly after, small and eager, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on Clara. He hesitated for a moment, unsure if she would still be willing to guide him through the day's activities, and then his face lit up with relief and anticipation. Clara knelt to meet him, her hand brushing gently against his as she encouraged him to speak. "Are you ready for today?" she asked, voice soft yet firm. Alex nodded, gripping her hand lightly. They moved together through the mansion, navigating hallways and staircases, each step a silent lesson in trust, independence, and courage. Leo observed from a distance, the rigid control he usually exerted tempered by curiosity and an unfamiliar admiration. By mid-morning, Clara led Alex to the private courtyard, a secluded space framed by ivy and marble columns. The air was fragrant with blossoms, and the sunlight spilled across the stone floor in warm patterns. She encouraged Alex to explore, to touch the flowers, to notice the textures and scents. He hesitated at first, but her presence was steady, reassuring, and patient. Slowly, his hands reached out, fingers brushing against petals and leaves. He laughed quietly when a small butterfly landed on his shoulder, and Clara mirrored his delight, her own smile soft and unguarded. In that moment, the courtyard became a sanctuary, a place where the outside world and its judgments could not reach him. Leo lingered in the shadow of a colonnade, his expression unreadable. The scene before him was both heartwarming and unsettling. He had spent his life controlling every detail of his world, yet he realized that control could not replace empathy, patience, or understanding. Clara's influence over Alex was subtle yet profound. She guided without dictating, taught without commanding, and most importantly, treated the boy as a whole person, rather than a challenge or responsibility. As he watched, Leo felt a stirring of emotions long suppressed, gratitude, admiration, and an unexpected relief that his son had found someone capable of reaching him. After a quiet breakfast, Clara suggested a small project to engage Alex's creativity. They gathered paper, pencils, and paints, and she encouraged him to draw whatever came to mind. At first, his lines were tentative, hesitant, yet with each gentle prompt from Clara, his confidence grew. Shapes became recognizable, colors became bold, and soon the boy was fully immersed, the world around him fading into the background. Clara guided him softly, praising his efforts and allowing him the freedom to explore. Leo observed from the doorway, struck by the transformation. The boy who had seemed so withdrawn and cautious the night before now radiated a quiet joy, his trust in Clara evident in every gesture and glance. By afternoon, the mansion's staff began preparations for an evening gathering. Clara helped Alex navigate the bustling environment, teaching him how to anticipate movements, understand subtle cues, and maintain his composure. Each small success built his confidence, and he responded with a growing sense of pride. Leo followed at a discreet distance, noticing the subtle lessons she imparted, lessons in patience, resilience, and social awareness. He had underestimated the depth of Clara's skill and compassion, and he found himself reconsidering assumptions he had long held about the world, about others, and about the nature of care and attention. The afternoon sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the marble floors. Clara suggested another dance, this time in a smaller parlor where Alex could move freely without the pressure of an audience. She guided him step by step, slow and deliberate, ensuring that he felt comfortable and capable. With each movement he gained confidence, the rhythm embedding itself in his memory. Clara's patience was unwavering, her encouragement constant. In those moments, the outside world ceased to exist. There was only trust, guidance, and a bond growing stronger with each rotation and sway. Leo observed silently, his heart caught between pride and unease. Evening arrived, with soft golden light spilling through the windows. The mansion's grand hall was being prepared for dinner, but Clara stayed with Alex in the parlor, letting him practice quietly. The boy's laughter was frequent, genuine, unguarded. She matched his energy with gentle encouragement, reinforcing lessons of confidence and self-expression. Leo approached quietly, kneeling beside them. "You've made remarkable progress," he said, his voice low, measured, yet carrying an unmistakable warmth. Alex glanced at his father briefly, then returned to Clara, the bond between them clear and unwavering. For Leo, the sight was both reassuring and unsettling, a reminder that control and authority were not the same as love and understanding. As night fell, Clara and Alex prepared for the evening gathering. She helped him choose his attire, ensuring he felt comfortable and confident. The boy moved with a newfound ease, smiling at himself in the mirror, anticipating the evening rather than dreading it. Leo watched from the doorway, quietly proud yet aware that the upcoming social event would test everything Clara had taught. It was one thing to build trust and confidence in the quiet of the mansion, another to navigate the judgmental eyes and whispers of the guests. Clara's guidance had prepared him, but Leo knew the challenges of the outside world would still loom large. The first guests arrived, and the mansion came alive with conversation, laughter, and subtle tension. Clara stayed close to Alex, offering gentle reminders and encouragement, allowing him to interact at his own pace. Guests who had ignored or dismissed him before were now noticing, curiosity replacing indifference. Alex responded with small gestures, tentative yet proud, each step a triumph over fear and exclusion. Leo observed, recognizing the subtle shifts in social dynamics. Clara's influence had not only empowered his son, but also begun to alter the perceptions of those around them, challenging their assumptions and prejudices with quiet grace. By the end of the evening, Alex was smiling broadly, laughing with genuine delight for the first time in a formal setting. Clara guided him through interactions, reinforcing lessons of confidence, empathy, and awareness. Leo stood nearby, watching with a mixture of pride and humility. The day had been a testament to the power of patience, understanding, and courage, and he realized that Clara had become an indispensable presence in both his son's life and his own. The quiet lessons of the day, the trust built through shared experiences, and the gentle guidance she provided had transformed not only Alex, but also the entire household dynamic. Abroca next morning brought a quiet sense of anticipation. Clara moved through the mansion with her usual grace, but there was a tension in the air she could not ignore. Alex seemed unusually excited, bouncing lightly as he moved alongside her, his hands fidgeting with the small trinkets he always carried. Clara smiled, knowing he sensed something different about the day. Leo watched from the doorway, his arms crossed, observing the scene with a careful eye. There was a subtle tension in him, a mixture of curiosity and caution, as if he were both guarding and studying the moments unfolding before him. Breakfast was a quiet affair. Alex chattered happily about small adventures in the gardens, drawing smiles from Clara and a subtle acknowledgement from Leo. The boy's energy was infectious, his laughter filling the room and dispelling the morning shadows that sometimes lingered in the corners of the mansion. Clara encouraged his excitement, allowing him to express himself fully while gently reminding him of proper manners and courtesy. Leo's attention was divided. He wanted to interject, to control the narrative, but he found himself stepping back. observing the soft power of Clara's influence instead. After breakfast, Clara suggested they take a walk in the secluded forest behind the mansion. Alex's eyes widened at the prospect, and he grabbed her hand eagerly, pulling her toward the edge of the property. The forest was alive with the scent of pine and damp earth, the light filtering through leaves in dancing patterns on the ground. Clara guided him gently, letting him explore, touch the trees, and listen to the sounds around them. The boy's confidence grew with every step, his small hand tightening around hers only occasionally, a sign of trust and comfort. Leo followed silently, watching the bond deepen with each passing moment. They reached a clearing where sunlight spilled in, illuminating a small stream that wound its way through the forest. Clara knelt beside Alex, pointing out the insects and small creatures, asking him to describe what he saw. He responded with eagerness, his vocabulary expanding, his confidence evident in the clear articulation of his thoughts. Clara encouraged him, praising his observations and his courage to express himself. Leo remained at a distance, yet the warmth he felt seeing his son engaged and happy was undeniable. The boy's laughter echoed in the trees, blending with the rustling leaves, a sound that seemed to chase away the weight of the world from the mansion behind them. After exploring the clearing, Clara suggested a small game of follow the leader along the forest paths. Alex's initial hesitation gave way to enthusiasm as he mimicked her movements, stepping carefully over roots and rocks. The simplicity of the game brought joy, but also a lesson in balance, focus, and confidence. Clara guided him with patience, allowing him to make choices while providing subtle guidance to keep him safe. Leo's expression softened as he watched. He could not deny the profound effect Clara had on his son. He realized that true growth required both trust and gentle guidance, a combination he had not mastered on his own. Returning to the mansion, Clara encouraged Alex to rest before the afternoon's activities. He curled up on a chaise near the window, still smiling, a soft blanket around him. Clara sat beside him, quietly reading a book, her hand occasionally brushing his hair. The bond between them had strengthened, a silent understanding passing in small gestures and shared moments. Leo approached, noting the comfort and trust evident in their interaction. He felt a mixture of relief and unease. Relief that his son was thriving, unease because Clara had entered their world in a way that was deeply impactful and yet entirely beyond his control. Afternoon brought the staff together for a small gathering in the garden, and Clara encouraged Alex to participate. The boy hesitated at first, unsure how to interact with the other children and servants. Clara remained close, offering gentle prompts and reassurance, guiding him through introductions and small activities. Slowly, his confidence grew. He laughed, shared, and engaged in ways that surprised even Leo. The other children noticed, some curious, some envious. Yet none could ignore the shift in Alex's presence. Clara had not only empowered him, but had also subtly reshaped the dynamics of the group, allowing acceptance and understanding to flourish. As evening approached, Clara suggested a small dance practice in the private ballroom. Alex's eyes lit up at the memory of the previous dances, and he moved toward the space with eager anticipation. Clara guided him carefully, encouraging him to match the rhythm while allowing him freedom to move naturally. Each step was deliberate, a lesson in coordination, confidence, and self-expression. Leo watched from the shadows, his chest tightening with a mixture of pride and vulnerability. He realized that Clara's influence extended beyond mere lessons. She had opened a door in Alex's heart that had long remained closed. Dinner that evening was quieter than usual, the mansion still buzzing from the day's activities. Alex was attentive, polite, yet clearly happy and relaxed. Clara encouraged conversation, asking about his day, praising his efforts, and celebrating his successes. Leo joined in, offering subtle guidance and support, though it was Clara's warmth that dominated the table. The night felt calm, the tension eased by the steady rhythm of routine and the bond they had cultivated. Clara's patience and empathy had begun to shape not only Alex's confidence, but also the emotional fabric of the household. As the mansion settled into quiet night, Clara helped Alex prepare for bed. She read to him, their shared moments intimate and tender, full of gentle smiles and quiet encouragement. Leo lingered nearby, watching silently, caught between gratitude and a growing recognition of Clara's impact. She had transformed his son's world in ways he could not, and in the process, had challenged his understanding of trust, patience, and the delicate balance between protection and freedom. The night ended with Alex asleep, a peaceful smile on his face, and Clara sitting quietly beside him, aware of the subtle yet profound changes she had helped cultivate. A morning light filtered through the tall windows, bathing the mansion in a soft golden hue. Clara moved quietly, aware that today felt different. Alex's energy was palpable, a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. He clutched a small notebook tightly, a place where he often recorded observations and thoughts, and his eyes flickered toward Clara as if seeking reassurance. She offered him a gentle smile, kneeling to his level. "Ready for another adventure?" she asked softly. Alex nodded, a tentative grin spreading across his face. The mansion, vast and imposing, seemed to shrink around them, transformed by the quiet bond that had grown between them over days of patience and care. Leo observed from the doorway, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. He had been accustomed to controlling every detail of his world, yet Clara moved through it with ease, altering the dynamics subtly, yet profoundly. She wasn't just teaching Alex, she was changing the rhythm of their lives, inserting empathy and patience where fear and control had once ruled. Leo felt a mixture of admiration and unease. She had touched something in his son that he could not reach, and perhaps, in the process, she had touched something in him as well. The thought unsettled him more than he expected. After breakfast, Clara suggested they explore the small conservatory behind the mansion. Sunlight streamed through the glass panes, illuminating the lush greenery and vibrant flowers within. Alex's eyes sparkled as he wandered among the plants, brushing his fingers against the leaves, inhaling the scent of blossoms, and observing tiny insects at work. Clara stayed close, guiding him without imposing, encouraging curiosity and observation. Leo followed at a distance, noting the ease and joy on Alex's face. The boy's confidence was growing, each interaction with Clara shaping his understanding of trust, safety, and self-expression. They paused beside a small fountain in the center of the conservatory. Water gurgled softly, creating a gentle melody that blended with the distant hum of the mansion. Clara encouraged Alex to sit beside her and describe what he saw, what he felt, and what he imagined. He hesitated at first, then began to speak in a stream of ideas, vivid and imaginative, flowing unrestrained. Clara listened intently, validating his thoughts, offering encouragement without judgment. Leo watched silently, captivated by the sight. The boy, who had been cautious and withdrawn, was unfolding into a confident and expressive version of himself. Clara's influence was undeniable, and Leo felt a pang of gratitude mixed with an unfamiliar vulnerability. By mid-morning, Clara suggested they attempt a more structured activity, an art exercise where Alex could illustrate a story. He hesitated, unsure of his abilities, but Clara knelt beside him, offering reassurance and guidance. "It doesn't have to be perfect," she whispered. "Just tell the story as you see it." Slowly he began to draw, lines forming into shapes, colors blending in ways that expressed more than words ever could. Clara praised his effort, highlighting the strengths in his creativity. Each small accomplishment bolstered his confidence, his pride visible in the careful attention he paid to his work. Leo remained nearby, amazed at the transformation. Afternoon arrived with a gentle warmth, and Clara led Alex to the music room, suggesting they explore rhythm and movement. She introduced simple patterns, guiding his hands and feet, allowing him to feel the beat, the rise and fall of sound, the pulse of harmony. Alex was hesitant at first, But with Clara's patient encouragement, he began to synchronize with the rhythm, his movements growing more confident and fluid. Laughter erupted as he discovered the joy in coordinating his body to music. Clara matched his energy with her own, creating a safe space for exploration, freedom, and self-expression. Leo watched from a distance, struck by the ease and authenticity of their interaction. Later, Clara suggested a brief walk in the mansion gardens, allowing Alex to observe and interact with the environment. The boy's eyes were bright, taking in the vibrant colors of flowers, the rough texture of tree bark, the distant flutter of birds. Clara encouraged him to articulate his observations, fostering confidence in both expression and perception. Leo followed silently, noting how each small lesson Clara imparted shaped Alex's understanding of the world, his sense of agency, and his willingness to engage with it fully. For Leo, it was a humbling experience, a reminder that some forms of influence required patience and heart rather than authority or power. As the evening approached, Clara and Alex practiced a brief dance in the private ballroom. The boy's movements were hesitant at first, but Clara's gentle guidance and encouraging words allowed him to gain confidence. He followed her lead, each step building a sense of rhythm, coordination, and self-assurance. Leo observed silently, a mixture of pride and unease churning in his chest. He had never seen someone influence his son so profoundly, nor had he recognized how much such influence could impact his own perceptions. Clara's presence had shifted the emotional center of the mansion, altering dynamics in subtle but unmistakable ways. Dinner that evening was intimate and calm. Clara guided Alex through conversations, reinforcing lessons of interaction, patience, and social awareness. He responded with enthusiasm and a growing sense of ease. Leo joined in, offering subtle encouragement, but Clara remained the anchor. The boy's confidence was evident, and the quiet joy in his eyes was a testament to the lessons imparted through patience, empathy, and understanding. The night felt calm, a rare sense of harmony settling over the mansion, replacing the tension and apprehension that often dominated their lives. As bedtime approached, Clara guided Alex through his evening routine. She read to him, shared quiet moments, and celebrated his accomplishments of the day. Leo observed, his heart full of mixed emotions. He was grateful for the transformation in his son, humbled by Clara's influence and unsure how to reconcile the power she had gently wielded over their lives. The boy fell asleep with a peaceful smile, the trust he placed in Clara evident in his serene expression. Clara sat quietly beside him, aware of the subtle but profound changes she had helped cultivate, and of the complex emotions stirring in Leo as he watched them together. The mansion settled into quiet for the night, the soft glow of lamps illuminating the grand halls. Clara moved through the corridors, reflecting on the day's events. Each small success, each act of courage and trust had strengthened the bond she shared with Alex and had begun to alter Leo's perceptions. She understood the responsibility she carried, the fragility of trust, and the potential for profound impact in a world that often overlooked what truly mattered. The night ended with quiet reflection, anticipation for tomorrow, and the subtle awareness that their lives were becoming intertwined in ways none of them had anticipated.